Well, welcome back. This is the third of four videos looking at what is a project. And what we're going to do during this particular video is explore the idea of a scope triangle. So here, let's go ahead and look at what a scope triangle looks like. So the idea behind the scope triangle is that during a project, you're going to have to balance time and cost and resource availability as well as scope and quality, that all of these are tied together, and that if one of these becomes out of balance, in other words, or one of these changes, so if you change the time allocated to a project or the cost or the resource availability, or the scope or the quality, all of these things are related, and it will cause the system to go out of balance, and you're going to have to make adjustments in other components here in most cases. So again, this idea is, can I trade time to increase scope, or can I trade cost, okay, to increase or decrease scope or quality or any of the other variables? And if you think about it, you can to a certain extent. And this is what project managers and leaders have to do all the time, is they have to architect or engineer the project so that they deliver on time and on budget, and meet all of the requirements so that the customer is happy and is at the right level of quality of work. But again, if you start to change these types of things, then you run into extreme challenges. And we have lots and lots of examples of this out in the real world. If you're working on a project and at the last second you try to add new requirements, say self-registration, to a project right at the end, then it's going to have an effect on the quality of the project. You're going to have lots and lots of bugs as you try to add this new requirement at the last part of the project, unless you also adjust the time, cost, and resource availability of that particular project. But if you don't, then you're going to have some challenges. And so this is this whole idea behind a scope triangle, and the idea that you can use this as a leader to make decisions. Now, as you're doing this, you have to look at these dimensions and determine, well, how important are they to the overall project? And so you may go through some exercise like this where you're prioritizing the dimensions or components associated with the scope triangle, and working this, of course, with the client as well, to figure out on this particular project, what are the things that I've got some flexibility in, what are the things that I don't have any flexibility in. Here are two of the larger applications of a scope triangle. So if you run into a problem or issue associated with a particular project, it's going to help you in that kind of problem resolution strategy. And then as you're going through most projects, you're going to get new requests, new requirements that come in, and you have to figure out, how am I going to accommodate those new requirements? And that leads to a scope change impact analysis. And again, going back and looking at that scope triangle and trying to determine where it fits in terms of adjudicating one of those changes is going to be important. Let me give you another example. Project I'm currently working on actually right now. And in this particular case, we brought in a strategic partner to work with us on a solution. They underestimated the amount of work associated with the particular project, and they underbid. They just didn't have enough. They said, yep, we can do that, not understanding what they were committing to. And it was a fixed bid project. So as we moved through that particular project and we got to unit testing, it became apparent that they were not going to be able to address the additional scope, or I'm sorry, the original scope at the quality that we desired for this particular project. So what can you do as a client? And we'll get into this later in the in the course, but as a client, you could extend the time. You could give them more time, and I did, to work on the project. I didn't give them more money associated with it. We had a signed contract that they were to deliver against, so in that case I didn't change that component. I changed the scope, actually. I took some things that were in scope previously out of scope and said, if you get to this reduced scope, then I'll consider the project completed. And I also I did not change the quality of the project, but I also changed resource availability. So I brought more of my people in to help the strategic partner. I'm always looking for long-standing relationships, not engaging in a blame game. And so what you saw is an adjustment in time, an adjustment in scope, and an adjustment in resource availability to try to turn a project around. And I think that's a great example of the scope triangle being used, and a great example here of prioritizing. And in this particular case, quality and cost were critical, and I was not willing to compromise on those, and I was more flexible on scope, time, and resource availability. Well, very good. Guess what? That brings us to the end of the third of 4 videos looking at what is a project. And what we'll do during the next video is kind of bring this home. We'll get into some characteristics and classifications of projects, looking at it in a couple of different ways, and then finish out by looking at the contemporary project environment that we all work in. So thanks for joining me on this third of 4 videos, and I look forward, study hard, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.